We've had a number of occasions to talk about the importance of Constantine's decision to move the capital of Rome to Constantinople in the year 324. By the end of that century, in the 390s, there was a permanent split between the western part of the old empire and the eastern part, with the seat of power, the seat of the empire, firmly established in the east, and the west severely weakened. During this period, the old Western Empire is increasingly invaded by outsiders. We see them moving in and occupying this weakened western part of the Roman Empire. And historians have referred to this period as the migration period, these non-Romans migrating into Rome. This brought the Visigoths, the Western Goths, into Rome itself, being the first to successfully sack Rome in the year 410, followed quickly by the Vandals coming through North Africa in 455, also sacking the city of Rome. In class, we looked at Theodoric and the Ostrogoths, the Eastern Goths, who also moved into Italy, attacking Ravenna in 493. This mosaic's done for Theodoric, as we discussed in class. All of this represents a mass migration into the provinces of the old empire. And this migration brought other peoples into other regions. For example, it also brought the Anglo-Saxons into England from Scandinavia. And they brought with them various cultural practices that we will discuss, including entombing their leaders, burying their leaders in complete ships. So this art fix will look at these works during early Anglo-Saxon Britain, a period we as historians call insular art, from the word for island, the art of the islands, both Britain and Ireland, will be the focus of this art fix. What we have here at Sutton Hoo is one of these Scandinavian-style ship burials that was brought by the Anglo-Saxons to Britain. These always were placed within sight of the sea, and Sutton Hoo is in fact in this region, not even marked on the map, but here in the detail of that region, you can actually see where Sutton Hoo is, just here, right? And immediately in sight of the ocean. As we saw with other cultures, inside these boats would be luxury objects buried with the leader, the exact same thing we've seen in many, many early cultures. The text illustrates, for example, the purse cover here, which we'll talk about at some length, but it also mentions a gold buckle, which we have here on the right. Various other things were buried as well, silver imported from Byzantium, from Constantinople, various weapons, bowls, and so forth. But I want to look closely at the buckle here because I think it's a good place to talk about the style of this period. Here is a detail of it, and as you can see, it's a very complicated pattern of interlace with very, very intricate detailing in the gold. Really a high level of craftsmanship and workmanship with this object. Here the lines carved into the gold, and it's filled with a bit of enamel, a bit of black enamel, to make the design come out. And as we look at the design itself, and we start to sort of think about what we're looking at, what we find is that it's actually based on an animal form. That here is a head and a jawbone with the eyeball there, coming down and looking around with something of a beak. This is the back of the body sweeping around this way. This is the front of the belly of the beast sweeping back here. And there, the forward haunch, if you will, the shoulder, and then the legs sweeping around here and becoming a paw at the end of it. A very stylized, very abstract creature. You can see it here better, where the tail, in fact, comes all the way back here. Each of the lines that we see are, in fact, a different animal, sort of abstracted into this linear interlaced pattern. Here's a close-up of the entire thing, lays out what we can see there. There's a bird there where you can see the beak and the eye, but again, abstracted. There's a parallel one on the opposite side. This animal that we were looking at here is echoed or reflected by the animal on the other side. Again, symmetrical. Other animals here and here. This is the norm for this insular art, design based on the use of animals as the basis of very complicated, intricate designs. If we look at the Sutton Hoo purse cover, this came from a leather purse. These are the hinges here. And inside the purse were the same number of coins that there are oar spots, oar locks on the boat, probably intended as symbolic pay for the oarsmen. And the mint marks on the coins tell us when it was buried. That's how we know it was done around 625, is basically the age of the coins. What we can see here is that same interlace style that we saw on the belt buckle. Here at the top center, 2 pairs of animals interwoven. So 4 total. There's the back, sitting on its hind legs. There's the paw. There's the foreleg and its paw. Here's the mouth with a snout that ends up running over here, echoed by one on the opposite side with the same design. So 2 pairs of interlacing animals forming this incredibly intricate design. And again, this is typical of the style for early Anglo-Saxon or insular England. In the bottom center, it's somewhat easier to see what these are, or what the animals here are. Again, they're symmetrically paired, and we have a bird of prey with a sharpened beak here, a claw there. Seems to be attacking a different bird with a rounder beak, something like a duck, perhaps. And as you can see here, the entire design is made up of these semi-precious stones. This is glass. This is garnet that are cut and filled around the outside with a fine wall of gold. Again, the level of craftsmanship is absolutely spectacular. The entire purse cover is only 7.5 inches wide. That's the same width of a standard piece of notebook paper. So the piece that we're looking at here is only about an inch and a half across, and yet filled with this elaborate detail, all against a gold backing. On the sides, we see also a symmetrical arrangement with the same basic style. Abstracted animals, like we saw up here, but maybe not quite so abstract, embraced on either side of a man in the center with a beard. This symmetrical arrangement reminds us very much of coats of arms, and in fact this helps us to identify who was buried at Sutton Hoo. One of the ruling families of this region was called the Clan of the Wolf, and this certainly suggests that wolves were important to whoever was here, and that gives us some insight probably into who was here. This heraldic device of the man with the wolves suggesting the Clan of the Wolf. One of these kings was named Redwald, and he's probably the man who was at Sutton Hoo. We don't know for sure, but there's some evidence that suggests it. He converted to Christianity, and in the burial site at Sutton Hoo was a pair of silver spoons. And on those silver spoons, which were imported from Constantinople, there are the names of Saul and Paul. These are the names of the same person in the Bible. Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament, was originally born with the name of Saul, and when he converted, he changed his name. This suggests to us that the person who was buried here, Redwald, also converted. And among the Wuffing family, only Redwald was known to have converted, and he lived around the same time as the coins that were found in the purse. So this is pretty good evidence that, in fact, this was his burial site. In our next art fix, we'll take a look at other works of art done during this period.